If we have to describe the PLP in one word, if we had to describe the PLP in one word, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the word would be smudgy.
That's a good word. We could use that.
Smudgy. You can't really see clearly what direction they're heading in. You're not sure exactly where they're going. That's smudgy. Mr. Speaker, the former minister responsible for BEC, Mr. Bradley Roberts, who's now the chairman of the party, in an ad hoc way, in a smudgy way, came up with a policy for BEC in terms of correcting what he thought were the wrongs of BEC. He and the chairman at the time of the corporation, Mr. Al Jarrett, are always on television nowadays and radio saying that they made a change for the positive, but we can see the truth. The truth is in the balance sheets, and the truth is in the financial reports that BEC subsequently had after their decision. So when the members of St. Thomas More will get up here and accuse our good ministers who are now responsible for BEC, who is fixing the problems, but causing problems, and causing blackouts, and causing dilemmas for BEC, we need to look back at the record. Before the decisions made by Mr. Bradley Roberts and Mr. Al Jarrett, the corporation was profitable. After the decision, every year, systematically, we went in the deficit. That's the facts. They table in this house. I don't have to even substantiate because they are on.
Please, we have two members on the floor. Member for St. Thomas More, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, the member for Golden Isles is grossly misleading the House of Assembly. Under the chairmanship of Mr. Al Jarrett and ministerial Member Bradley Roberts, with ministerial responsibility for BEC, for the first time in the history of BEC, people who use BEC got a reduction in their light bills, Mr. Speaker. First time ever. They also, Mr. Speaker, got interest on their money they deposit in BEC, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Golden Isles, please proceed.
Untrue.
Those are two different issues. Member for Golden Isles, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy you said the two different issues because that's the kind of smudgy things that we expect from members of the side officer. Smudgy. See, I'm trying to be clear with the Bahamian people and say that in 2005 or thereabouts, the decision was made. We know that. Clearly, it was clearly enunciated by them at the time. Then all of a sudden, by 2006, BEC had a loss of $2 million. 2007, a bigger loss and a bigger loss and a bigger loss, and so on. And so now BEC is in a financial situation because of the decision that was made. It's clear. It's clear. So now the management and the ministers with the responsibility for BEC are working systematically to take BEC out of the hole that Bradley Roberts and Al Jarrett and the Christie administration put them in back in 2005. That's what's happening now. That's what this bill is all about. This is one of the steps that are being taken. That's one of the steps that are being taken. And see, so when you see...
Point of order, member for Yamacraw.
The point of order, Mr. Deputy.
What is your point of order?
No, the member for Golden Isles indicated that those, and I quote, those are the kinds of smudgy decisions made by members opposite. And I take grave exception to the word smudgy decisions. Just as they took exception to intentional decisions, I take exception, Mr. Speaker, to the word smudgy decisions. Now, I don't know what you all know smudgy to mean, but it is not anything nice, and I do not feel that everybody on this side or this side should be painted as no smudgy decisions.
Member for Golden Isles.
Mr. Speaker, the system that we operate in this country in terms of governance calls for cabinet members to accept collective responsibility. Now, if the member for Yamacraw wants to disassociate herself from decisions made by the administration to which she was a member of, then she should do that. Otherwise, accept the smudgy title. It's up to the member.
Member for Yamacraw.
I'm quite aware of
Is
collective...
it a point of order?
It is a point of order.
What is your point of order?
The point of order is the fact, what the member said. The member said that if I don't want to take, that I don't want to be a part of collective responsibility. I know what collective responsibility is all
but that's
about.
not a point of order.
No, but first of all, I want to respond.
That's not a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I asked you to have him to eradicate or withdraw the word smudgy or change it. It is not a parliamentary word, and it does not suit for this side, and it ought not to be used. Just how they took exception to intentional, I take exception to smudgy. And I believe that it ought to be withdrawn. It ought to be withdrawn. Mr. Deputy, Mr. Deputy.
I've heard you. I've heard your point.
Mr. Speaker,
Member for Golden Isles.
for the sake of the member for Yamakraw, the Webster New Collegiate Dictionary defines smudge, which is the word that makes smudgy. The root word that makes smudgy, to make a smudge on, to soil as if by smudging, to rub, to smoke, or protect by means of a smudge, to make a smudge, to become smudged. The next definition, a blurry spot or streak, and a material stain. Cleanse him for every last impropriety, an indecent mass. Doesn't that sound like it? A smoldering mass placed on the windward side. So smudgy. I think it's appropriate, Mr. Speaker. The decision made in 2005 or thereabouts was a smudgy decision. It created a stain and a streak.
No, in my view, I don't see that as unparliamentary. So you could proceed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. See, we had a intervention by the member for Thomas More earlier where he said that for the first time in the history they reduced the rate of electricity and then put BEC deep in the hole. That's not a clear policy for the development of a country. What that is a public relations gimmick that failed.